Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get us going, and maybe we'll have a few more join us as we go. This will be a little bit shorter than our previous go-to sessions, so we'll be under an hour. As you're probably familiar, in week 4 we are really not introducing new content, but giving some time for review and reflection. So what I really want to focus on in the presentation tonight is just talking about this final design project and bringing all the pieces together, all the different elements and different ideas that we've been studying throughout the month. As far as announcements, I am working on your week 3 projects now, and I'm about halfway through the class, so hopefully I will have those finished by the end of the evening, and you should see your feedback on those. There is no exploration assignment this week, as there's no new content for the course. But do look at the professionalism assignment, because there is a reflection video attached to that you'll want to make sure you complete. And hopefully I will have your Photoshop practice activities caught up by the end of the week. So look for those in the next few days. Otherwise, I think that is all we have in terms of announcements. But as I mentioned, we do have the final design project coming up. So make sure you take a look at that in advance and see what that involves. We were just discussing that a little bit. And I'll get into the details of that in a few minutes. But it does involve applying all of your Photoshop practice skills, and as well as making use of the different ideas as far as design concepts that we've studied in the explorations. And as I mentioned, I've been going through the week 3 projects. Those are looking really pretty good overall. I think the choices of typefaces have been pretty sound, good combinations, a lot of really good contrast. Something that I often see is a mix of really very modern typefaces with very classic, almost antique-looking typefaces, which is a perfectly valid design choice. But just make sure that that's something that you're consciously choosing, and that's going to work with the rest of your design ideas. This would be something like choosing a really classic serif typeface, like say Palatino, and something like Futura that is really ultra modern looking. They can work together, but it does create that sort of old meets new contrast. So make sure that all these are very conscious choices. Did you guys have any other questions? We were chatting a little bit before I started the recording, but anything else I can answer right now? Okay, not for now, but and maybe if there are, maybe as we go through this, go over the final assignment, it'll answer some questions you may not have known you had. So this weekend you have the design draft due, and this is meant to be the culmination of your visual mission statement project. So this is the mood board project that you've been putting together over the last 3 weeks. And if you remember that crazy diagram I had of the course in week 1, which I should include here, I have to remember to do that next time. There's those, the 3 components of the course: the exploration, the Photoshop practice, and the mood board. And all that comes together in this assignment. So you're going to apply your Photoshop skills, make use of the different exploration topics. So all these ideas like visual storytelling, color theory, visual hierarchy will be very important, and the use of your typefaces. So pulling all these things together to create a visual representation of your mission statement. And that's been the idea all along, so now you're going to put that into effect. You've made all the design choices, all the art direction has been set. And I use this particular student's work as an example. This is actually an older version of the assignment. You'll notice there's a little bit of difference in some of the information, but the assignment itself was the same. So just paying attention to what she's chosen in terms of imagery, textures and colors, creating the brand color palette, and selection of typefaces. So what you're doing now is taking all those different elements and putting them all together in a design. And as you were asking, does it have to be a poster? I envisioned it as being a sort of a movie poster type of design, but it doesn't have to be. That was just really just the easiest example I could relate it to. So it can be something like this. This is more of, almost looks like something you might see on a brochure or a flyer, or like a card that you would hand out, or even a website design. So it can take, a very different format than posters, ad designs, or what have you. But if you look at this, what she's done here, you can see the wood, the aged wood texture, the use of the colors are all there. That kind of burgundy wine colored color in the text, as well as the deep blue and white. And also this goes back to her image collage, is this idea of standing on the edge of some precipice, whether it's a pier or a cliff or a riverbank, and with the theme of taking the leap. So they're preparing to kind of take this leap into whatever awaits them. And that's the theme. And she's actually taken a very direct approach and specifically listed some of her goals or values. And you can do that too, or they can just be implied or communicated through a metaphor. However you envision that taking form. Okay, so yeah, you're getting some ideas of where you want to take this. You start to narrow it down. The image collage in week 1 is really just sort of throwing ideas on the wall and kind of things that appeal to you, and then you can start to narrow it down. So maybe by this point, some of those ideas have kind of fallen to the side, and some have really risen up and gotten your attention more so. And you'll have an idea of where you want to go with it. So really important for this assignment is that you apply some of these aesthetic factors we've talked about. Usually visual storytelling should take part. It doesn't always. I mean, it does in this project, though it's not a real strong storyline there. You have a character who's really not identified with this idea of taking a leap. So use that to a greater or lesser extent, depending on what fits your goals. Make good use of color. This includes your brand colors. And going back here, the brand colors are limited to just these design elements of the text, maybe a logo. Those colors you chose do not impact the image that you chose. You can have more colors in your overall design, but as far as setting your branding, you want to try to stick to those colors you chose. But at the same time, you want to think about color in terms of the storytelling aspect. So here, it's all very muted. It's kind of very subdued. You see the sky reflected in the water, and the gray of the weathered wood is very kind of low key. But it also creates almost a neutral palette for that warm wine color to react against and stand out. So think about those kind of factors. What kind of mood does the color in the image create, and how does it react to your brand colors? Do you want it to create that sort of neutral background so that your brighter colors can react against it, or do you want it all to sort of be very calm and harmonious? Those are some choices that you'd want to make. Make use of those typefaces that you chose for headings and for smaller text. She actually had 3 different typefaces going back. I didn't really talk too much about display typefaces, but these are sort of special typefaces that you would use for logo types, like the Coca-Cola symbol. And in looking at the choices, she has kind of mixed it up a little bit with that display typeface taking the prominent role while the heading typeface is kind of subordinate. It's providing the smaller text, and then that Helvetica isn't used at all. So the typefaces are still here, but just a little bit different in the kind of the creative vision has evolved a little bit. And yeah, you're still welcome to make those changes as well. So, but if you do, say if you decide you really don't want to use the typefaces you had originally chosen, go ahead and update your mood board as well, so I'll know why you made that choice. And this is last, but really very important, is that idea of visual hierarchy. This is something I really want to see you put some thought into. Is where do you want to put focus? Where do you want your viewer to look first? What should catch their eye first? Because sometimes I'll see projects that really you can tell that it really wasn't deliberately done. It's sort of the text is very small, the image is presented in such a way that there isn't really a strong subject. Nothing really stands out. So consider your font size. If you want to really emphasize your title, make that larger, make it stand out with contrasting colors. If you have an image, say if you're using your own photo or something you found on Morguefile or one of these other sites, think about cropping it, how you could crop it to give emphasis to a particular object, make something larger in the scene so that it's more attention-grabbing. But really put a deliberate effort into creating that visual hierarchy. It makes a really big difference in how effective your message is communicated. Any questions on any of that so far? Okay. One question I occasionally get is what's required as far as the use of Photoshop? Do you have to demonstrate every one of the practice, like the techniques that we've practiced in the practice assignments? And the answer is no, you don't have to. I want you to use Photoshop however you need to use it for this project, whatever that particular project demands. So If you want to composite multiple photos like you did with the traveling ducks, then you can do that. That's a really useful technique for providing a new background to an image or inserting something new into a scene. So really useful, but it's not necessarily essential. If you can achieve your goals with just an image that maybe you crop a little or adjust in size or in some way. If color manipulation helps you to change the emphasis or the mood, then make use of that. But none of this is really required. Really, the only requirement that it has is that you add text of some kind. But that's probably not going to create the most visually impressive design by itself. So make use of whatever tools you need. And just to give a few more examples of past projects, these are some that have been completed that were pretty successful for this assignment. This is an example of photo compositing here. And looking at this in terms of visual hierarchy, she's got the city in the background, which is a very busy image, but has been kind of desaturated. The contrast is really dropped so that it's more of a watermark than a sharp image. And that allows her picture to stand out as the foreground image. The brand colors are used for graphic elements with the vertical bar and the little social media icons. And you see I can't tell if she's using multiple typefaces here or if she's stuck with her heading typeface for the whole thing. But it's pretty straightforward communication of her goals as a media professional. Also note that in terms of use of color, how and I'm going to give her credit for doing this deliberately, is how the entire composition is in these cool blue tones, and then which provides contrast with her warmer skin tone. So allows the focus to be on her face in that portrait. This one again uses photo compositing to insert herself. You don't have, these two happen to include the person themselves. You don't have to. It just happens to be the ones I picked. And really an essential idea of visual hierarchy with varying font sizes. I liked how her placement made use of the kind of the design elements of the flag itself to provide some framing for her portrait. And the color scheme in this case is sort of kind of a given because it is the flag colors, but using that the use of shadow kind of gives it a little bit more of a mood, which it almost seems in contrast to, and now that I'm thinking about it, to the upbeat quality of the message. It gives it a little bit more of a kind of sentimental feel, perhaps. And this one takes a little bit more of almost sort of a surreal artistic approach. I want to say that this is a composite, but I'm not entirely sure where the photo originated from. but it's all really very kind of low key in terms of the energy, even though there's some complementary colors going on. But it really helps add emphasis to that tagline, building potential and sharing stories. That's the one warm color element. One of the suggestions I would have in this case is to move all of this text over to this negative space in the open sky, just to give it more balance, because right now everything is shifted to the left and kind of takes away, kind of makes it heavy on that side, and the space is it looks heavier, and it's sort of this space becomes somewhat unnecessary. It's not being made use of. So shifting that over to this corner would kind of give a little bit of a balance between those two corners with the figure down in the lower left, and just spread things out a little more. Something we really didn't cover in class is balance, but it is, something you can think about. You'll get into that more in the graphic design course down the road. This one is noteworthy for a number of reasons. One thing that stood out is that in this case, the color scheme, the color palette that was chosen really does take up the majority of the image. So this is a case where that color palette really does define the composition. Balance is good in this case with the two design elements kind of counterbalancing one another. And you can see the different typefaces used, and they're kind of mixed up in this case. They really didn't take a heading versus body text approach, but more of just the primary versus secondary typefaces. And the one suggestion I would have in this case is to watch out for that text associations, how you read this. It is intended to say, you are not what they say, stop media influence. No, you are not what you say you are, stop media influence, but just the arrangement could be read, stop you are not what they say you are, media influence. So, again, take into account the intuitive way in which we read. The difference in colors helps in this case, though, because you can associate this pale blue text together with and then separate the white and black text. And that one, going back real quick, that's not the worst case of that color text association problem, but this is something to be conscious of. Make sure that you're arranging it so that it's really clear. There's no room for error in how they might read your text, especially thinking back at that example from the go-to session with the Arctic foxes, where the text was broken up and really, really counterintuitive. So just don't do that. So now we're getting into some more really stylized artistic examples. This one is a photocomposite. There's the crowd at a concert. What looks like it was originally fireworks that have just been really distorted to create this interesting texture, which is blended with little iconic pictures that are in the background. There's a camera. There's what looks like a bear. I'm not sure what that represents. A guitar, a book. So things that are kind of representative of his interests. And the color scheme in this case is directly integrated into the image. Yeah, it does look like a bear is sitting on a skull. So I'm not really sure how that is to be interpreted. Some good warm versus cool color contrast going on there as well. Give it a little more of a dynamic feel, in addition to those bursting firework patterns. And another one that's very stylized. This one has started with a photo and then has had a lot of filters applied and transformation or layers. Yeah, transformation layers applied where the color and contrast are really distorted. It has some really good warm versus cool color contrast here as well to help with the visual hierarchy, so that the Michael Austin title really stands out sharply compared to the other elements that are less contrasting. All right. Are there any thoughts or questions or ideas that you might have for your own project that you would like to run by me? You, what is it that you keep thinking about, Haiwan? Oh, kind of still thinking about the direction for your project? Okay, yeah, and you still have time to come up with specific concepts, but really start narrowing those down and think about what kind of imagery you want to focus on. But really, that's what I wanted to do tonight was focus on that last project, make sure that it's clear what you're doing and what the goals were for that assignment. But if that seems clear, let me see. Let's make sure I'm getting all the questions. Okay. All right. Is there any input I can give now to help, or is it something that you just kind of have to let simmer? Okay, yeah. If you want to send it to me in advance and have me look at something, I can, give you my thoughts, make sure it's on the right track. But sure. But yeah, if there's no questions right now, if you guys feel like you just need to dive in and work on it, then I will let you go for the evening. Like I said, this is a shorter session tonight because I just wanted to make sure we're on track with wrapping things up.